Where do you think the universe came from?
There was a builder, an architect, an engineer behind this building, right?
You have to come to some conclusion. You can get a grip of this understanding, it will change
But I'll
your
be
life.
praying for you when I leave here today. And
Over
when I go home.
150,000 people die every single day.
If you weren't a hypocrite, you wouldn't need
They're
Jesus.
preaching
You'd be
to
perfect.
these
Jews, Jesus is risen from the dead, and you need to believe on him.
You
stand before God.
He actually paid for our sin in his
You're
life's
judging
blood.
for what you've done wrong, not what you've
But
done
yet,
right.
the God who has given us life and given us our mothers, we disrespect him.
When do you think you want to get right with God, repent of your sins, and trust alone in Jesus?
As soon as possible.
Here am I will go.
Shalom to everyone and welcome. I have with me Mr. Ted the Atheist. It should be a great night. How are you doing, sir?
How's it going, bud?
It's going great. How are you doing tonight?
All right.
Good. Well, it's great to see you. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. All right. Well, I'll open up with my standard stuff. So just so you're aware. But my theme verse...
It's very
My
long.
show-
Your intro's a little too long, actually. FYI.
Okay. Appreciate the input. It's shorter than
And it
the
used to be?
others. No.
Oh.
No, than the others.
Ah.
But it is a
Intros
little
should be catchy and short because no one wants to sit through them. Really.
long. I understand. Hey, brother Ryan.
Hey.
Thanks for coming on.
Ted. How are y'all doing this evening?
Hey, what's up?
Fantastic.
I'm just real quick. I'm wearing my Tennessee Volunteer T-shirt because the baseball team is the national champion right now.
Wonderful.
So we go Vols. Even though I'm really just a football fan, still, when your baseball team wins the championship, it is a big deal.
Right. Then everyone wears the shirt. And then
Yeah.
once they lose, no one cares. Except for Wisconsinites. They're wearing Packers and Brewers all year round. And then I guess people in Illinois will wear Bears and Cubs. So
I delivered a package inside someone's garage today that had a lot of Packer stuff on the wall, and I didn't get to see them personally, but if I did, I would have said, "Are you from Wisconsin?" You know?
Yeah, it's pretty obvious.
But they have Packer stuff on their wall.
Sweet. Very cool. Let me move this down a bit. That should be all right. So Romans chapter 12, verses 1 through 2. I appeal to you, therefore, brothers, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your spiritual worship. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect. So welcome all to We're the Great Revival. I am your host, Samuel David Spoonhour. This will be really neat because I have Mr. Ted on for a Q&A. I wanted to change up the format from last time. I apparently don't know how to debate. More or less. I didn't clarify to him, and it just kind of a communication error, really.
That's all right.
I want it to be different this time. I want it to be more of like a discussion level, just what I would do when I go out evangelizing and I interview people. I want it to be friendly. So I'll ask, I guess, I don't know if you want to ask me a question first, but I'll ask you a question, you'll ask me a question, and then one of the panel members gets to ask both of us a question. And as we get more people on, I'll try to clarify. Try not to be too pointed. Don't be rude to Mr. Ted here. So, because, Mr. Ted, you are on a Christian show. So, I just don't want anyone to gang up on you. I'm sure you've had that before.
I'm not worried about that at all.
Yeah, but
even if they did.
Either way, I want it to be as cordial as possible. So, but I'll open us up in prayer and ask for the Lord's blessing on the night.
Should be.
Lord, yeah?
Okay. Never mind.
Oh, sorry.
I
Lord,
forgot. Go ahead.
Lord, I thank you so much for this opportunity to do this. I thank you for giving me the strength and the courage, God. I thank you for Mr. Ted coming on. I pray that you just give me the words to speak, help me to answer these questions as best as I can, and I pray that you would just bless the night. Would your hand be upon it, God? And I ask all these things in your name. Amen. Did you want to say something, Mr. Ted?
Why do you think that little prayer thing works?
Oh, that was the first question to me.
There you go.
Okay, sure. Yeah, let's start with that. Well, I believe that prayer works because God exists and the Bible is true. So prayer is purely communicating to God because he's spiritual, and prayer is a spiritual thing. So
Okay.
that's why. So, but it's an interesting question theologically, because technically God has his own will and what he's going to do, but he also commands his, well, I say children, but he commands us to pray, even though I have no idea the level of influence it has. I mean, God's going to do what he wants to do anyways because he has a will. It doesn't mean necessarily that, I don't know. It's just one of those things where I do it because it helps me to trust him more, helps me to depend on him more, which makes me more humble and makes me more selfless too, because if I pray for other people. So I guess I'm trying to like relay it in a materialistic sense, but anyways, and now can I ask you a question?
Right ahead. I mean,
All right. So this one's a bit of a tough one, and just
Trust me, it's not.
try to answer it to the best of your ability. I guess more or less you probably have heard this before, so I say tough, but I mean tough as in like very provocative. What do you think truth and morality are ultimately grounded upon? Like, what is the standard for truth and for morality?
Morality is your inner compass, what you and it's from what you observe and how you gauge the world and what you feel is good or bad, right? So it comes from within you.
Okay, so are you saying it's sorry?
And then we have ethics, which is about the society's rules and what's good for the society and stuff like that. And truth is a degree to which a statement corresponds with reality. So that's where that is.
Okay. So you're essentially saying truth is sourced from reality? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, truth, the amount of truth for a statement corresponds to how much relates to how much it corresponds with reality. So when someone makes a statement, it's only as truthful as it can be demonstrated. Everything that's said to be true must be demonstrable. And that's how we determine the truth value of a person's statement.
Okay.
Like earlier I said, why do you think prayer works? And you said, because God exists and the Bible is true.
Well, I said if God exists and if the Bible is true, then prayer works. So
right. But I asked you why you think prayer works, and now you're saying it was an if statement. Well, it shouldn't be. Your belief shouldn't be based on an if. It should be based on what.
Well, I genuinely believe that God exists, but I'm just trying to be honest, like that. I'm saying like because I also am telling you this from my view, but prayer works because God has power over everything, and He loves us enough to listen to us and hear us.
Well. That's what you get from your story, but
sure. But that's why I said that first.
Yeah, truth relies on what can be demonstrable, right? So you're going by a story, and that's where we differ, because I go by what can be demonstrated, and you refer to the story.
Sure. I guess technically, like I refer to a story that is reality. So I believe that the Bible is history. I believe that the Bible.
No, you
Well, you could disagree with me, but I genuinely, that's why I'm a Christian in the first place, because I
Right.
genuinely believe it is history,
Right,
not
right.
just a story.
But the Bible is full of a lot of things that are said to be so that aren't so, or are actually impossible. So to say that the whole thing is reality is, of course, not true, right?
Oh, could you give me an example?
Burning bushes talking, sticks turning to snakes, people walking on water,
Okay.
people coming back to life after being dead for a long time. I mean, even longer than 15 minutes, you're going to be brain dead. So, yeah.
If God exists, could he do all that stuff?
Yeah, but that's another if, right? But
Okay.
you think it's reality. See, that's the
because
problem
I
we have.
believe it's reality that God exists.
Right,
So
right.
I just reason
Right.
from, does God exist? Okay, miracles are possible, right? We have the creation of the universe. Everything came
Well,
out
we
of
don't know
nothing.
that. We don't know what nothing is. We can't use that word.
Well, nothing is what rocks dream about, as Aristotle said.
Yeah.
Um,
So we can't really use that word. So
Well,
yeah,
it's no thing. It's no
Well,
thing.
we-
It's not
right.
something.
well, we don't know. We don't know anything about the universe or how it came to be, so we can't make assumptions about it.
I mean, do you know 100% for sure that your hand is in front of you?
That's I don't see how that's relevant to the conversation. at
Well,
all.
I'm saying that technically it's possible we could be in the Matrix.
Well, we can go with any kind of ifs, ands, or whatever.
Right. But that's
You're-
why I
you're-
say if, because
But you're-
philosophically.
Yeah, but you said that the Bible is reality. You said that.
Yes,
you said it's
I-
reality. But
yes.
you'd have to actually show that. But you said your basis for that is your belief. But you can't use a belief as a basis for something and
Oh,
have
no,
it say
but-
that it's reality.
Yeah. Well, I'm not trying to say my belief isn't why I think it's true.
Well, then
that's
well,
not what
well,
I'm saying.
Then that's what we care about. That's what people like me care about. We want to know what it is
Right.
that you have the basis for saying if you say the Bible is true, we want to know the basis for that. We don't want to hear, well, that's your belief. That's a problem we run into a lot.
Well, that's
We
why
don't-
sorry.
Okay.
I'm purely saying that, and when I say belief, I mean something that I live by, right? I believe that there are morals, so I live by those morals. You believe that there are morals, you believe that there's truth, so you live by that, right? You live by your belief set. Okay, so I live by my belief set. So I say, I believe that this is true, so then I live by that. Now, the reason I have come to that belief is through a lot of research and evidence that I have found, but it's not necessarily stuff that you know about. It's just I've done a lot of research, hours upon hours upon hours, also reading the Bible for myself, and just learning more about archaeology, about history, and so like that's how I don't want to say that's how I became a Christian. That's more of how I've held to being a Christian rather than say becoming an atheist or say a Muslim, right? I want to know genuinely what is true. And so
that's what Dan Barker's. Do you know who Dan Barker is? Remember that?
No.
I told you his book before.
Oh, yes. Yes, you
Yeah,
did
that's what
mention
Dan
that.
Barker said. That was his reason for being a preacher for 20 years. And then he
Right.
was at some sermon, listened to some guy, and the guy said something, and he wasn't sure if it was true, and he went to look it up. Because, like what you just said, he cares about the truth. He cares about saying
Right.
what's true. And
Right.
that's why he did what he did. But then once you started digging into it and finding out, hey, what he said is not true. Wonder if this other thing was that true? And for 5 years, Dan went through deconversion, where he wished he could go back to where he was, and he couldn't anymore. And now he worked for the Freedom from Religion Foundation with Anne, and he married her, and they're doing their thing. And the motivation he has for doing what he's doing now is the same motivation he had before. He wants to tell the truth. He just didn't realize he didn't have it before, but now he does.
Right. Yeah. Well, he could say that is a good thing that he has, but that's assuming that the purpose of life is to get married and have an enjoyable life. So that's assuming that
Purpose and
that's even
meaning
good
is
at all.
relative. Yeah, purpose and meaning is relative to each person. So
Well, if it's relative, then that means that there's no ultimate purpose.
that's
So
correct.
that means
that's correct.
that
There can't be an ultimate purpose. There can't be.
there can't be an ultimate purpose.
Cannot. No, because the meaning of life, by definition, is what each person feels that it should be. Because it's what your meaning is of what life is. It's how you define it.
Okay. So I have another question for you, if that's
Sure.
okay.
Sure.
If Stalin says that wiping out everyone who is not of his race is the purpose of life, is that in fact
Well, then we'd have to go
morally
into
right?
then we'd have to go into the whole, you know, what's good for society and what isn't.
Yeah, but you just based on what you said, I'm just asking this question, right? Because if purpose is relative, right, then that means that if Hitler comes out and says all Jews need to be killed, this is the purpose of life, right?
Yeah,
we need to kill all Jews.
You can have a purpose for killing anything, and it doesn't mean it's going to be good.
But why would it be bad? Because there has to be a
because
standard.
because of what's good for you, what's good for society, what's good for the you. See,
Okay, it's about society.
Hold on, we want to live as long as possible, carefree, with freedom. We extend these rights to others in order to live in society, and going around killing people is not conducive of a functional, happy society. Which is why that would not be a good thing. You can have any kind of purpose in life, but just because you have a purpose in life doesn't inherently make it a good thing.
But why does it make it wrong? Right? Is morality something that's purely
why
subjective?
why does what make something wrong?
Why does anything make anything wrong? Why does anything make anything right?
Well,
What's
is it
the
good?
standard?
Is it good for society? Is it good? Will allow you to live in society and be.
Okay, how do you know that?
How do I know what?
How do you know that it's about what's good for society? Why not what's good for animals? Why humans? Right?
Well, humans are animals, but
okay, but say say from an evolutionistic perspective, right? Survival of the fittest. Like, why aren't we just killing all the poor people and all of the people who have diseases, and then the rich, healthy live? Like, why not follow that rule? Like, why isn't that the purpose of life? And then
do
that
sick
gives
people
us the
not get
morality.
better? Do poor people not do better? I mean,
No, I'm not.
I don't understand.
No,
I'm not trying to.
If the purpose of life is purely subjective, just a second. Let me pose the question. If the purpose of life is relative, then that means morality is relative. Okay, because morality, what is good, is based off of why we are here, and that has to do with the purpose of life, right? So why we are here is purely to say kill off the weak, which would be like from an evolutionist perspective, okay? Then, and I'm not saying evolution is real or true or not. I'm just bringing up this question here, okay?
I don't know why you wouldn't.
Then why is anything such as murder, rape, stealing, why are any of those things wrong if that is true?
I don't see how that has to do with each other there, because morality is what is your inner compass of we're talking about ethics and what's good for society.
And I agree that we have a moral compass,
yes.
But why is it there? And why is anything wrong other than just us thinking that it is wrong?
I've already explained that. I'm like,
but you said society.
Right.
But what if it's better for society that we wipe off everyone off of the face of the earth except for white people?
How would that be better for society?
I don't know. You'd rid
what's
the purpose of life?
you would have to come up. You'd have to come up with an explanation of why that would be good.
Well, Hitler thought it was great to get rid of the Jews, the gays, and the drags, and I don't agree with him.
To be fair, Hitler asked and offered to get rid of all the Jews and send first-class ships anywhere full of Jews to anyone who would take them, and nobody wanted them. Just
actually
FYI.
Never heard that.
Yeah,
I have read biographies on Hitler, and I've never heard that.
Yep, they held a summit and world leaders and everyone, and they refused. And although Hitler's a bad person for what he did, you have to give a tiny bit of credit. At least he tried to offer with them first. So.
And not only credit to that, but at the same time, woe upon us because nobody took him.
Yeah, nobody at all. That's correct.
There is one exception.
I've never heard that.
In fact, they sent him back. They actually, our ship made it somewhere. I forget where it was. Was it Trinidad or something, or some other country? And they sent him back. Like, nope. So,
I've never heard that before.
It was pretty
there is one exception that you guys should know, and I'm not going to interrupt your debate. Just saying hi and
thank you for coming on.
Tell you that the only country that didn't give him a list with the Jews is Greece. They gave him a list with 2 names, specifically. No, I think Cyprus. They gave him a list with 2 names, which was the prime minister and the president of democracy. So if you want the Jews, come start with us. We're not Jews, but we're not giving you the names. So I just wanted to point that out.
All right, great. Thank you for that.
Mm.
But back to your thing before.
I'm trying.
I'm
to,
not really sure where you're.
I'm just trying because you're essentially saying that morality is dependent upon society. I'm asking, what is the ultimate standard behind that? Because if society
I don't know
says
what ultimate means for that, I don't know what you mean.
The source, something solid, something firm, not continually changing, such as society. Because in Jesus's day, in Roman society, murdering children until they were 5 years old, I believe. Murdering children until that age is perfectly legal. Infanticide.
God did it.
Could you give me an example? But that's regardless of the point.
Okay, that's fine. Well, God killed a lot of people in the Bible. Children.
Yeah, but God has the moral. God.
Outside the story of Job, Satan never killed anybody. But God killed tons of people.
I don't know if Satan really killed anybody, honestly. In Job? I don't think Job even killed anybody in Job.
I think he might have.
But anyways, God gave us life. He's allowed to take it away. Just like
that's your belief
in a
that you can't
smaller
prove.
sense. Okay, well, if God exists and he gave us life, he's allowed to take it away, okay? That's just, so to say that God is unjust for taking away our life is just misunderstanding who God is. It's a straw man.
So you think parents should be able to kill their children whenever they want?
No, because they didn't give them life.
They
purely were given the ability to create life, to procreate.
No, the man gave it life. They had sex with a woman and delivered a seed. And
no, all the DNA was still there. Originally in the man, given to the woman, all the DNA is still there. All the information.
So they created life.
I mean, you could say, in a sense, given, but they didn't create the life. God created the life.
Oh, well, that's your belief, though, right?
I mean, sure, yeah. Of course that's what I believe in because that's what I act upon. But when I say I believe, I act upon it. So I know that God exists because I've experienced who He is. So you could say,
I don't
know
what that means.
I know.
I don't know what that means.
If you touch a hot burner, or say
I don't need
you're
an
told.
Analogy. I don't need an analogy.
I know you don't like analogies,
but
I'm just trying to explain my point. Believe in and believe that are completely different. Okay, I don't just believe that God exists. I believe in God, right? So it goes from just
I guess to me
a temporal idea to actually experiencing.
To me, it's just crazy to believe.
Sure, which is fine.
To say,
but
to say that you believe in something that you can't even define and cannot demonstrate. To me, that's crazy. Like I
can define God, but it's not. It's that God is beyond human comprehension.
No, you can't even say that. You can't even say that because you're human. Because you're human.
Yes, but I'm limited. But God is infinite.
But you can't say it's beyond our understanding if you're human and you have the same understanding as all the other humans.
But I can't understand God. I can apprehend God, but I can't comprehend.
Maybe because then you don't know what it is, so why believe in it?
No, I do know who He is.
No, what is it? Not who it is. I want to know what is it.
Okay, an infinite being that has created everything.
What is that? Okay, you just defined it by something that is unintelligible. We don't know of anything that's infinite.
No, He's also a mind.
No, an infinite mind.
And
then you defined it by something you think it's done. So in no way did your definition tell us anything about what it is.
Well, you want me to continue? An infinite mind that is beyond time, that is timeless, immaterial, spaceless, that does not determine my energy, all-powerful, all-knowing. So that would be the mind part. An intelligent being.
None of those things told me anything about what it is. It told me you tried to take away limits from it. You didn't tell us what it is. I don't know what it is, where it lives, how it does the things it does. So why should I? So how can you say that you believe in something? How can I, or any reasonable person, say they believe in something when there's no definition other than words that take away limits from it, and we don't know of any being that exists where we can do that. Like, I got a cat right here. What can I say about it? Hey, kitty, what can I say about you? Can I take away a limit? You are timeless. Great. Okay, I now have a timeless cat in front of me. Does anyone know what that means? Like, nobody knows what that means. It doesn't tell us anything about this cat.
I'm saying this based off of the logic that the universe is dependent and it must have something independent behind it. It was the idea that Aristotle gave in his metaphysics.
That's
an
assumption.
Uncaused cause.
Yeah, that's an assumption. We don't know.
It's not an assumption. It's a logical inference.
But even if we could go to that, we don't know what that is. So we should never assume.
Yes, but
you think that because that maybe there might be something that caused the universe, even though it could have always been here in some form or another, we don't know. But you want to think that it was created at some point, and then you not only want to say that it was created, but you want to have you think you have an idea of what did it. But you have nothing to go on.
Are you assuming that I'm a real person, or just
an AI? I don't know what you're just.
No, I'm asking you a serious question. Are you assuming that I'm a real person, that you're talking to a real person right now? Or are you assuming that I'm a bot?
I would say you're a real person, sure. But I know what a person is.
But
I don't know.
See,
I don't
but
know
you're
what
doing that based off of a logical inference.
But
right?
I know what people are. I know people can talk in webcams. I know that there's technology. I already know these things are possible.
Yes, but
I don't know the universe get created. I don't know that. I don't know what a God is. So I don't know that God could have done it. Like we don't know these things. You don't know that. I don't know that.
No, I do. You can't say that for everyone.
If you know that,
that's making a big assumption.
If you knew that, you'd be able to define it and demonstrate it. But you can't do those.
Yes, but I can't physically demonstrate an immaterial being.
And you cannot demonstrate it.
I can define him.
Therefore, it is irrational to believe in.
Okay, that's not a scientific law or a philosophical law.
It's logic. It's logic. If you can't,
can you define logic?
I'm like, but should I just start Googling words for you? Does that make you happy?
No, but seriously, if you could define logic for me, or say, how about this? Define consciousness.
Okay. How would that help? How would that help this conversation at all?
I've never heard anyone, and I also know the greatest philosophers are puzzled by the idea of consciousness and even logic itself. It is incomprehensible because we use those things, right? Consciousness is, in a sense, beyond our very logic that we even use. So it's even something greater than our own logic. So we can't technically describe it, right? Whereas God is ultimate consciousness, the source of consciousness, the source of logic,
the source
of goodness.
How do you know that?
Because we have these things in the first place.
We'll have what things in the first place?
We have logic. We have consciousness.
How do you know it came
we
from
have
a God?
Morality.
How do you know it came from a God?
No, I'm saying because we have these things, we have an ultimate source.
How do you know that this... How do you know? What makes you think we have an ultimate source?
Because we have these very things, and these
what
things
makes you
work
think
consistently.
That? Why do you think that?
The fact that we're communicating right now.
How is that evidence of something giving us logic?
In other words, our own minds and our own wills do not determine logic itself, whereas logic itself is existent.
Why not? What didn't we create?
The fact that we're communicating right now, we can understand each other with different minds
because
and different
of our
wills.
ability to create language and to form sentences. And
I'm not talking about language. I'm talking about logic.
Right. We created that. We created the facets of logic, and it worked.
So what you're saying is that if humans didn't exist, logic wouldn't exist?
It might exist on other planets with other beings, but with humans, we wouldn't have had it here on Earth, sure. But
okay, without an intelligent being, is logic dependent on an intelligence?
Yes, it does.
Okay, so that means that logic is dependent on an ultimate source because we need the laws of logic.
It's dependent on an intelligent being to understand it and recognize it. Otherwise, it'll not be recognized.
Mathematicians have realized.
Yeah, math is conceptualized, right? Math is conceptualized.
Yeah, it's purely it's purely principles, quantities, numbers that show physical reality. They're purely describing physical reality, but it's all dependent on an external mind to actually say, like, do an equation or come with those numbers. So, but the universe runs on math and runs on logic. But yet, if no humans were there at the Big Bang, how is it you still have everything working accordingly without the existence of human beings? This is why people have proposed, such as great philosophers, that there's a mind behind the universe.
Right,
So
right,
that
but
is partially that's a very small that's a logical inference.
No, it's
an assumption that we have consciousness and logic. It's a logical inference. That's what I'm saying.
You're assuming a God exists. It's not a logical inference at all.
Well, I have a lot more reasons than just that to say that God exists. That's only one small piece.
I bet you it will not stand on its own. You can't. This is what you do. This is what a lot of Christians do. They say, well, this argument is kind of good. I use this, and then I use this over here, and then I use this over there, and yeah, you might be able to tear me up on that, but I got this over here. Yeah, you might be able to. But when you put them all together, I think it's strong enough for me to believe in this God. And you think that mounting them all together, a lot of bad ideas, is enough to make it so that your belief in a God is somewhat reasonable.
Oh, that's totally not what I believe. And that's totally not what I'm doing.
My experience, that's what all Christians...
Yeah, which is fine. I mean, I just... it's something that is very difficult for me at my... I don't want to say intelligence level, but more or less my knowledge level to explain these things in a way that you would best understand. This is why I watch lectures. This is why I read books, because I don't just get it from, say, just talking with someone, but rather from actually doing study. And like, that's why I've come to these conclusions, because I've taken time, thought, research. In fact, I was going to offer you, there's a book, just one book, if you'd be interested in it. It's called Evidence That Demands a Verdict. I would love to buy it for you. It just goes over...
That, yeah.
Oh, have you read it?
I might have read it back in college.
Okay. Well, there's a new updated version that's probably past your age. But it's just...
See, it's not... If you're going to say something is true, you can't refer to someone to refer them to a book or something like that.
No, I want to refer the book to you, right?
But
that's not why I believe it's true.
Okay,
it's not because of a book.
Okay, then why would I need to read the book?
Because it will give you some evidence and facts that will
you
point you in the right direction.
And you should be able to tell me what those evidence and facts are without me having to read the book.
There's so much.
If they're so compelling, if something is so compelling,
it's compelling when you see it all in the big picture, because they're like it's like when you're doing a criminal case, it's like connecting all the dots. It's just like geometry, right? When you start with one single proof, or actually three proofs, and you use deductive reasoning to then obtain more mathematical ideas, and like, if this is true, then this is true. If this is true, then this is true. But like, even just basic philosophical training is needed for a lot of that stuff, and to actually get to that conclusion yourself, because not everyone wants to believe in a God.
It doesn't matter what people want. What matters is what shows to be true, and you don't need to have tons of philosophical, training.
Oh, I'm not saying tons. I'm just saying basic.
Or any, in order for someone to be like, well, the evidence is X, Y, and Z, and then we can go look at it ourselves. But no one's doing that. I ask you for definition. You give me some word salad that doesn't tell us anything about this thing, and then I say, how do you know it exists? Well, because I think logic says so when it never did. So
I tried my best to give you definitions. A creator of the universe should be more than enough.
No, because that tells me what you think an action was that this thing you speak of did.
No,
you're trying
creator
to say
is a noun.
Exactly. No, right. Creation, creator. It's doing something. It's creating.
Yes,
something.
It's a noun that tells you what it did.
Exactly.
So,
and when we ask you what something is, we're not asking you what it did. We want to know what it is.
If I tell you I'm a videographer, does that tell you about something about myself?
No, if I want to know what you are. You are made of carbon, water. This is, where you live. This is how you do the things you do. Your arms and legs. Like, Like you would give me a
Yes.
definition of you as a human being, then that would help me understand what you are. Tell
Yes.
me what you do as a job is not going to tell me what you're made of, how you do the things you do, and stuff like that. See, that's what we want. We don't want to know the job
Right.
you have. We want to know, oh, this is a being. What is it? Oh, it's a trash collector. What that doesn't tell me anything about what this being is, right? But see, you're trying to get away with avoiding that. You want to avoid that.
But
and
I
just talk
said
about
that
something
God.
else.
I'm not avoiding it. I said that God is an infinite being
Yeah.
who is the source for morality, for
Okay.
truth.
Yeah.
Okay, who is the standard for those things,
Yeah.
and has the lack of time, has the lack of space, has the lack of a metaphysical being, not a physical, a supernatural being.
What beings do we know of that are metaphysical or
God,
supernatural? Other than
God.
this idea of a God thing, what else do we have? Anything else?
Just because you don't have another example
Oh,
doesn't
okay,
mean
okay,
it doesn't
so-
exist.
So then, how is referring to something that we know nothing else is of that going to help us understand it?
But an infinite being doesn't lack anything, which means there would be no one else.
What do we know of what beings do we know of that's infinite other than the story?
No.
Okay, if we
No,
can't relate, if we can't relate anything to it, then why tell us that it's infinite being? Because we don't know of anything that's infinite. So how
But
can that help us?
if you know
understand
what limited is, that first of all, I did say you can't comprehend God. I said you can apprehend. Okay, you can't comprehend the idea of infinity. If you do that too long, I've done that, and it hurts my brain after a while because I'm a limited, finite being. So in other words, it's logically impossible for me to comprehend something like that. Whereas I can apprehend, just like I can apprehend consciousness and logic, okay? I can't comprehend consciousness. I can't give you the full 100% reason why I have it, but I
We do
assume
have
that
it.
I have it.
We do have it, and it's because
But
our
I
brains are
assume.
working. And our
But
brains are working.
but we assume that based off of logic, okay? So I assume that God exists based off of certain things, such as I know that truth exists. I know that morality
Wait,
exists.
what would truth
I
have
know
to do
that
with
the
What would truth-
universe
what would truth-
began
What would truth have anything to do with a God?
because he would be the source of that. So he would.
What does
because
that
he
even
is
mean?
when the standard, the source of
I don't
truth.
know what that means. The source of truth. Truth is a degree to which the statement corresponds with reality. When I say an assertion, how true it is depends on how much corresponds to reality. What does some God thing have to do with that?
It is dependent. Truth is dependent upon God and who he
How?
is.
How?
So it's grounded
How?
in who he is.
How?
Because truth exists.
I don't
That's
understand.
how I know.
You're going in a circle right there. I don't.
No, but it's not a circle. It's
Yeah,
all
because you're
pointing
saying,
to
how do
the
we know
same
that? Because
end.
God said so. How do you know? Because we have truth. How do you know truth is there? Because God. How do you know God's correct? How do you
No,
know
that's not even
because
what I'm
truth?
saying. I'm saying
Okay.
I know that God exists based off of ideas such as like truth exists, morality exists, the universe had a beginning, the universe is dependent.
We don't know that the universe had a beginning.
I'm very certain. Have you ever heard of the singularity theorem?
Yeah, but we don't
singularity
know. We don't know
theorems?
anything about the Big Bang.
Well, you
Right.
say you don't know, but I know.
No, you don't.
I'm very certain.
No,
you
you
can
don't.
say I don't, but that's assuming. So,
Okay, to show us that the universe was created. How do you know that?
well, based off of the evidence for the Big Bang, such as Surge we'll go over if you study through Surge, there's historical discoveries during the 20th century that point to the universe having a beginning. In fact, Hubble and
Point to.
Lemaitre's law.
But not shows.
Hubble and Lemaitre's law is the law of the universe expanding. So the singularity theorems are kind of opposite of that. Stephen Hawking and Roger Penrose had posed these as an idea that if the universe is expanding outward, then that means that if you reverse time and it goes inward, then that means that has a single point of ingress.
But that does not mean creation.
Hold on a second. No, creation means there was a creator. So you're
Oh.
right, yes. But just a
Something
second.
could have been created through a natural.
So hold on. All natural things were created through natural? That's kind of
It
a
could have been
logical
natural.
fallacy.
It could have come. The universe could have been in different forms before.
If it had started, if everything started at one point, that means there was nothing.
So that's why I say
We
there
don't
was
know what
nothing in
nothing
the
is.
beginning.
So we can't really say there was
It's
nothing.
not anything. It's what rocks dream about.
We have no experience of that, so we can't really use that word. We really can't. We can't talk about nothing.
Okay, I have no experience of being in Las Vegas, so it doesn't exist. That's ridiculous.
No.
So
That does not. What is that? Was that supposed to be?
no, that's me taking your claim and using it. I have no experience of being on Mars. It doesn't exist.
No, we
But
don't know
that
what
logic
nothing is.
doesn't work.
We don't know. We know places exist. We don't know nothing exists because we don't have any experience.
No,
in it.
nothing doesn't exist because it's nothing. It's purely a term we use to describe
Yes.
non-existence.
Oh, okay. Non-existence of
That's
what?
it.
Of what?
It's nothing.
Of
That's it. Nothing.
We
It's
don't
not
know what that is.
comprehensible. It's
Right.
apprehendable, but not comprehensible.
so you agree that we have no idea what nothing is?
Nothing. No. We do know what nothing is.
We do.
Nothing is nothing. It's no
But
thing.
You can't define it by itself. You can't use the
No,
same
I
word.
didn't define it by itself.
You just
I'm
said
not
nothing is
using this-
nothing.
No, I said it's no thing.
Right. That's the same thing. It's nothing. No thing. Nothing.
It's
Nothing.
how about this? Not something.
Hey, that's just telling it. That's using the same thing to define.
I'm using the same idea, but I'm not using
Yeah.
the same word.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that we do have an idea, but just because we don't have an idea doesn't mean it didn't happen. Although we do have an idea, but it doesn't mean that there wasn't nothing in the beginning. And if I technically say there's nothing in the beginning, that means, well, God actually was in the beginning because, but
Well,
I
The
want
point
to
is that
explain that.
we have no idea. If
you have no idea.
no, mankind has no idea if the universe was the Big Bang was a creation or not. It could have been the universe in a different form, right? We just don't know.
Are you saying that with
can't-
100% certainty?
That we don't know? Yes, you're correct. We do not know with 100% certainty. We do not know the universe what the Big Bang was all about.
Okay.
We have no reason to think that the universe was created at that point. It could have been in a different form before then. We just don't know. We don't. We can see evidences of the redshift, and we can perhaps say, well, perhaps.
Well, there's a lot of evidence.
Right,
That's
sure.
why it's a scientific law.
Sure. Well,
It is. The Hubble
the Big
Lemaitre
Bang
law.
is a theory, right? And we don't have good information on exactly what that is all about. So because we don't have information on what that was all about, people like you cannot go around and say, "Oh, it was created then," because because now you're trying to say that something specific happened at this point, and I'm going to throw my gun into that. No, you can't do that because we don't understand. No, if we don't understand anything about the Big Bang and what happened before then, or what was exactly that was all about, we can't make assumptions about it at all because we don't know. If we don't know, then we don't know. But people like you are trying to say, "Well, I do know. It was created because."
I have a lot of reasons for that. It's like this long
I
list.
think so. Wait, but none of them will be anything worth any salt.
But that's
Right?
what you're saying.
No,
That's
no.
definitely
The
not what I'm
reasonable
saying or
person-
what other scientists or
if-
philosophers say.
If it meant something, you would be famous. You would be bringing it to light. You would be peer-reviewed documents.
Not everyone wants to believe in God.
It's not about wanting. It's about what you can show to be. It doesn't matter if nobody wants to believe in a God. If you can bring a good demonstrable, if you can bring a good definition of what a God is, which is what needs to be worked out first, and then you can, because you need that in order to demonstrate, and then you can demonstrate this God exists in some way, then you can bring that forth, and no one will be able to deny that information, no matter how
Stephen
much.
Meyer already has.
No, nobody has, because nothing's been brought forward. But if you,
Yes, but that's because people have reasons they don't want to believe.
So you think you have a good definition, you think you
Yes.
have good evidence, and people
Yes.
just don't want to believe.
A lot of people don't.
So
because
I
there are
don't-
moral
so I-
implications.
So you think I don't believe in a God because of some emotional, moral thing in my
Not
head?
necessarily. I don't know you personally, but I know based off of certain reactions or even objections from a lot of people, a lot of atheists that I have talked to and other atheists that I've heard respond to good arguments for God's existence. And they will bring up usually moral issues that they think are moral, but aren't even actually moral. They essentially assume that there's some greater morality than God, when if God is infinite, then that means he cannot be evil, which is a lack of good, which means that God, by definition, cannot be evil. He would only be good.
Did I ask you what a blah was before last time?
Yes, you
right.
did.
And what was your first question?
Well, I had asked you for a definition.
Exactly. But
Yes.
now you know why I don't believe in a God.
No,
Because-
that's a ridiculous reason.
No,
If you're
no,
not doing
no.
research on your own about
No.
who is God,
No,
then
no,
that's
no.
your fault.
I don't care about who is God. That doesn't mean anything to me. I want to know what it is. Who it is assumes I already know what it is.
No,
I don't
but
know what
that's
it is.
That's
I don't-
I mean
no, no,
the
no.
same thing.
No, it's not the same thing.
I
want to
mean
know
the
what it
same
is.
thing.
No, who does not mean what? Two different words. Who
What it is,
assumes? Who assumes that you already know what it is?
an infinite being. I told you that.
Yeah, okay.
That is the source and
case,
standard for truth and
any
morality.
case, back to my thing.
No, that's all right.
When
Sorry.
I asked you what a blah was, the first thing you want to know is what it was, right? Because, and the reason why you asked that's the first question everyone asks. What is that? What is a blah, Ted? What is that? The reason why they ask that is because in order for us to believe in anything, we have to know what it is for us to say we believe. Because if I say I believe in a blah and I don't know what it is, I don't really believe in a blah because I don't know what it is.
Right.
So I can't say thank you because it can't say that, I believe in the blah. What is it? I don't know. So do you really believe in blah? No, because it doesn't have a meaning, doesn't have a definition. So
Right.
I would believe in an idea of a blah. I wouldn't actually believe in a blah because the word blah is not defined. It means nothing. It's just something I pulled out of my butt.
Right.
Now you know how I feel about this God thing, right?
Yes,
There's no
which
definition
I
for it.
understand. I
You
realize.
You say there's a God. I want to
Right.
know what it is, right?
But what am I leaving out? Like, how
Okay,
am I not telling you what it is? I gave
what
you
it's
some
made, what it's
definitions.
made of. What it's made of.
Metaphysical.
No, we don't know of anything that's metaphysical. What it's
No,
what
no,
it's
no,
made
no,
of.
no, no, no. I just gave you something, and then you're just denying
What
it.
being? What kind of being do we know of that's metaphysical?
God.
That's not your part of your story. Anything else? Anything
What
else?
do you mean not part of my story?
Yes.
Immaterial. So
Okay.
not material.
What beings do we know of that are immaterial?
I mean,
besides this-
angels, demons,
Okay,
Satan.
these are all part of your
Ideas.
story.
Ideas.
Those are-
How about that?
No,
Ideas
beings.
are not
I said
material.
beings, not ideas. That stuff goes on in our brain.
Okay, beings.
External beings.
God.
That doesn't have to do with your story. Are you hearing me?
What do you mean my story?
Your story
It's
that
not
you
a-
believe in. The story
I
that you
don't believe in
is
a
God.
story.
Yes,
I
you do.
No,
Yes, you do. That's what a God is. It's God, Jesus thing. It's all a story, right?
it's not a story. It's history.
Okay, then you'd be able to show that, right?
I mean, that takes a lot of
I think it takes
research.
I don't think it does.
Depends on your road of where you're gonna say,
I think you-
I believe it at this point. Like,
think
how
you
much
want people to
evidence
think.
is it gonna take?
I think you want people to think that it takes a lot of research, but it doesn't.
No, I think it does. I mean, technically, it depends on like how willing are you to believe such a thing, right?
I'm
Because
willing to
like,
believe
say
anything
kids are
that's
really
supposed to be true.
gullible. Sorry,
Okay, go ahead.
kids are gullible in a sense. So like, the amount of evidence you need to give a kid to believe something is very low, right? But as we grow, we also grow intellectually. So, but even then, there's still
Were
people
you brought to
who
church
are-
when you were a kid?
Yes.
Well, there you go.
And I told you that I'm still a Christian because I've done a lot of
Did
research.
you know that
and
if you teach
Sorry.
a child before 6 years old to believe in a God, he'll most likely always will.
do you realize that over 90%, which is a peer-reviewed research, over 90% of kids under the age of 6 all believe that God exists?
Yeah.
Actually, it was 80%. but
Yeah. If you teach them that,
They
then
weren't even told that.
Yeah.
They weren't even told that. 80%
They weren't
of
even
kids
told what.
that God exists. They weren't even told.
Well, how do they know about a
80%.
God then?
Because a creator of the universe. Because they were explained it's a creator of the universe. And so you have to read the research paper itself, but
Yeah,
it was
I
very
probably would, huh?
interesting.
But
Sorry.
you see, I need to know what this God is,
Okay, what am I lacking?
what it's made of, where it lives, and how it does the things it does.
Okay, is in heaven.
Okay, I don't,
Is made
know
of
what
a
that is.
metaphysical material
you know
that
what metaphysical material is.
Okay, so but I'm giving you something.
But you're giving me some words. I agree. The English language.
You want an
I'm
interruption?
trying to express ideas. How about this?
I see
Do
that.
you,
Yeah.
do you want an interruption?
Huh?
To give you some time for thought, both of you, an interruption to just add something here.
He can't interrupt or intervene.
Yeah. Because it is actually great. It is great entertainment, everybody. I hope people are enjoying this. I do want to say that it is, if we are, I have a computer next to me, and if I ask somebody, did that computer create itself? Or did somebody create it? There are two choices. One of the two choices cannot claim that it's not faith, because you can't tell me that the computer created itself and there are evidence just that some other people have it. It didn't create itself. So this is where the premise of believing in a creator comes from. We see the creation. We see
No,
that there are things
that's-
around us
Yeah.
that have
No,
that-
sir.
wait,
No.
wait. And then if you ask me or Samuel, and I'm going to give this to you guys and walk away again. If you ask him, where is God in that creation, where he lives? Well, he's not in the computer. I created this computer. I'm outside of that computer. I'm not in it. So I reside somewhere else where the elements of the computer cannot make sense where I am. If the chips are disagreeing where the creator is, they will never find me. I'm outside. I'm going out for a beer with a friend. So, all right,
Yeah.
just dropping it here. Good
Yeah,
job,
thank
both
you
of
for
you.
that.
Thank you.
Tidbit of, whatever that was.
So what he's saying
I know it
is,
doesn't suit your argument, but you gotta see that this is where the premise of a God comes from. It's not a story
Well,
that we started
you're-
believing in kindergarten.
Your argument there
Excuse me.
assumes that nature is creation, and until you can show that, then
I can. Yeah, I
Right.
can. Let's organize a debate between me and you, because I don't want to interrupt yours,
Yeah.
guys, but I can. I can see it
No.
everywhere around me.
If you could, you'd be famous, my friend.
No, I can, but you and others don't.
All right.
wanna-
All right, where's your release online that shows this? Because this is compelling news, and it would be very, very famous.
Well, when you have, I'll give you one example, and I'm out. Of course, I don't want to interrupt you guys. That's
You
why.
just did.
Yeah, but I mean, you keep asking, and I'll just, I don't want to make this between me and you. So, but because you're asking, when there are plants that they don't want to overpopulate one area and compete for their resources, and they have seeds that can only be activated not when they drop on the ground, but when they meet the acid inside the intestines of a bird. So when they get eaten by a bird and then the bird poops, then only can the seed be activated. That cannot happen on its own, because there is no way for a tree to know what exists inside the belly of a bird. It requires a creator.
Nope.
We can go back to all the levels of creation
assuming.
and see.
You're assuming, my friend.
There is no assumption. Look that
Yes,
up.
there's
There are seeds that are not getting
complete
activated.
assumption there. Complete
I-
assumption. You can't
I-
draw a line from one to the other. You have to assume. That's called assuming.
Assuming what? What is the assumption?
You're assuming that there's a creator because something is so complex that you don't understand it yourself.
So how did
It's called the argument.
plant-
It's called the argument from ignorance. We don't
Yeah.
know, therefore God.
Well, no. Well, how did the plant know?
Well,
What
that's just
is
it.
this?
See, that's just it. You have questions, and I
What?
acknowledge your questions, and I think you should keep asking them. That's fine. You should always try to fill in the questions you're looking for with relevant answers and do
No,
your
I have
research
an
and all that. No. But you're trying to ask a question knowing that people are going to have a hard time answering it because it's a complex one, and then you think, well, see there, oh, it must have been God. See, that's the
Well,
problem
no.
you're
The
running
thing
into.
is that I provide an answer,
Yeah.
and
You do.
I
Yeah.
do
I know you do.
acknowledge the fact that answer is based on faith. But
Yeah,
you
well,
don't
faith is-
have an answer
Faith
for
is
it.
faith is not a
you
way of
don't
knowing.
accept that it's
Hey,
faith either.
hey, buddy, faith is not a way of knowing anything. Okay, it's without reason. So
No, I'm saying don't try to deflect that. I said
well,
that I have an answer, but if I give it to you,
Right.
you'll say
you
that's
did
your
give me the
faith.
answer.
But
You
I
did-
admit it is a faith,
you already gave me the answer. You said God did it.
and I admit that I believe in. It is faith.
Right. And faith is not a way of
But,
knowing anything,
but
so I
you
don't care
guys
for it.
are saying atheism is saying evolution is saying that no, these two evolved on its own. We don't have evidence of how the bird knew, of how the plant knew what
Okay.
exists
Okay.
in the
Does
bird.
that mean that there's not a natural explanation for it? Because we don't know?
For me, there is. The natural explanation is that a painter,
No,
a
no.
painting has a painter,
No.
a car has a car that created
No,
it, the
no.
factory.
Analogy is not going to work for
Creation
you here.
has creators. So,
No.
Harvey, salute. Keep going, guys.
All right. Peace.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. Where were we?
I don't know. You really
No.
wanted to jump in there.
And I appreciate him, even though he did interrupt, but he's still very kind, and I also appreciate you doing this. It's very kind of you. It's great to talk to you. It feels like this has been more of a debate than last time, which is good. But I do want to at least clarify one thing that I think is very important. Faith is not without reason. Faith is dependent on reason.
If it was dependent on reason, then we would just have the reasons. Like if a God could exist, and if we could show that God would exist, and there would be reasons to show it, like we would have actual demonstrable scientific evidence, you would refer to that, and you would not use the word faith because you would actually have evidence to show it. You would have reason to believe in it. But because you don't, that's why you use the word faith.
But I'm not lacking in evidence. In
But
fact,
you
I
are.
have tons of
But
it.
you are. But you can't even
No,
define it. So how can we? Okay, answer. How can we have evidence for God if we can't even know what it is, what it's made of, or anything about it?
Well, you can know something by what it does. So
What? Like what? Give me an example of something we know, what it does without knowing anything about it.
Actually, I had a great example, and it lost. That train
The
left.
closest I can come to are black holes. We found out they exist.
Right, or dark
through-
matter.
Well, we don't. We found out black holes exist through math first, and then we were able to see more evidence of it after through our thing. But we don't have anything for this God thing. We can actually tell you how if black holes are formed. We know more about them now ever since we were able to detect them. But we don't have anything for a God. That's why you tell me all these pretty things about all powerful, all knowing, immaterial, timeless.
But I get those from evidence. I get those ideas from evidence.
Okay, then give me the evidence and don't give me those word salad words.
Well, I talked to you earlier about the universe having a beginning.
Okay, then
and if matter, time, space, and energy began, that means that the cause for the Big Bang cannot be those things. So it has to be timeless, spaceless, immaterial, and not determined by energy.
There's a lot about quantum
It could be
mechanics.
math. Could be math.
There's a lot about quantum mechanics that we don't know.
Okay, but those are still dependent. Those are all dependent on math still, and that math is dependent on a mind.
The deal is that we don't know a whole lot about quantum mechanics. Things pop in and pop out of existence often, right? It's spooky to us. We don't understand it. We're at the baby infantile stages of it. But you're trying to say that, well, based on current knowledge, because we don't know, let's just say God did, right? And that's where you jump to.
No, not even. Even with quantum physics.
There's a lot about reality that we don't know, but we don't know enough about quantum mechanics to know that it didn't play a huge role in why the universe is here today. We don't know.
But even with the idea of quantum mechanics, it's all still dependent on rules, laws, which are dependent on a lawgiver, a rule giver.
You're assuming that.
That's a logical inference. Like I'm logically inferring that you'll understand what I'm telling you.
Then what made your God? Who made your God? What made it?
God cannot be created.
There you go.
An infinite being.
There you go. That maybe the universe is infinite, and it just
No.
changes form.
Just a second.
Maybe
a timeless
universe-
being doesn't have a beginning, which
We
means
don't
he
know.
would never have been
We don't know
created.
it's timeless. We don't know it's timeless.
God.
We don't know that.
An infinite being. It's not comprehensible.
What if the universe
Only
always
apprehensible.
what if the universe always existed in some form or another?
It's still dependent in that
No,
it's still
no,
Aristotle
because-
pointed
no,
this
It
out.
doesn't matter who pointed that out. You have to if it could have always existed in some form or another, no God is necessary.
No, that's not true because
No,
laws of
no.
nature are still dependent,
well-
and also morality
Oh,
and truth.
then
and
I can
logic.
say the same about your God. Then something else. Then something created it as well. Where did it
So
come from?
hold on a second. So what you're saying is that an uncreatable being was created, because a God is an uncreated being.
That's only you saying
So
that.
in other
That's
words,
only you saying that. You were saying
No.
that. No, you are
No.
saying that. Yes, you are saying that. You're saying it right now. But we have nothing to go on. We don't.
I'm
know
not
it's
the
true.
only one who says
It
that.
doesn't matter how many people say it. What matters is what shows to be true.
Yes, but I'm telling you that the definition of God.
Your definition of God.
No, the colloquial definition
Where?
of
Where's
an
that?
how about
Is
this?
it-
An
Is that
infinity.
the word salad you gave me about
Does an
all-powerful,
infinity have a
all-loving?
beginning? Does an infinity have a beginning?
Why would it?
Okay, so therefore it would never have been created because
Do
only
we know
things
of
that
anything-
begin
do
to
we know of
exist
anything-
are
Do we know of
created.
anything that's infinite? Do we know of anything that's infinite?
God.
There
Sorry.
we go. Back to your story. Back to your story. Hey, you can't go and say it's this, this, and this. Words that we have no experience of being relative.
You don't require experience to know that it exists.
But if I ask you what something is, you can't use words that don't relate to a living being that we know of, because you're trying to make me understand this thing. You want me to
Yes,
understand what
but that's
God is.
purely me trying to get you to understand.
But I
That is
can't-
not
But
me.
no one is going to understand you if you use words that have no meaning in our everyday
But
life.
infinity has a meaning.
No meaning.
It-
No meaning.
Not limited.
We cannot. We do not know what something is to be infinite. We don't know.
Not limited.
Just like we don't know what nothing
Not
is.
finite.
We don't know. We know the idea of it. We don't know of anything.
Yes,
that's
but
that
if
thing.
you know the idea, that
No,
means you can
no,
apprehend. That's the
no,
grasping part.
no,
It's not the
no.
completely understand.
We don't know of anything that is that thing, though. We don't know of anything that is infinite. We don't
But
just like we
you
don't,
you can't
There's
give
no-
me a comprehension
doesn't matter
for
what I can.
consciousness.
Doesn't matter what I can or can't give you. What matters is what can you show to be true.
If
right?
the universe had a beginning,
If another if.
if
We can't
truth
go by if.
exists,
But
if
we can't-
morality exists, then
Samuel,
God,
we can't go by
some
ifs.
kind of godlike being exists.
Sam, we can't go by ifs. You have to show it to be true.
Have you ever done math? If this, then this. That's the basis of math, is geometry.
We're not talking about math here. We're talking about
No.
you making an assertion of something to be true. You can't use if
Yes.
statements. You can't use if statements.
But that's all of math. That's
We're not-
the
we're not
beginning of
talking about-
math.
We're not talking about math here. This is
That's
not math.
all of science. All of science has always been if this, then this.
In science, we show something to be true by having, something demonstrable, something, scientific evidence in support of it. We don't just say something is true and hope one day it is. We don't do that.
But the scientific evidence is purely just quantities and
But how does that help you show that what you say is true is real?
so what I'm saying is that there is actual physical scientific evidence and quantities, mathematical quantities that point to the existence of a creator, of a cause
No.
behind the
Yeah.
Big Bang, a mind behind the universe, and
Nothing-
philosophically a source for morality.
Nothing is doing that. Nothing at all. Nothing.
You could disagree. I mean, clearly
I
disagree.
clearly disagree, and I think any reasonable person should, because we have no idea that the universe was created. Nobody knows.
I think
Nobody.
there's a great
What do you
reason to
do?
believe.
There is no good reason to believe. If there was, it would be scientific fact. It wouldn't be just a
It
theory.
is literally.
Nope.
Well, it's
Nope.
it's
a theory. It's a theory. We don't. The Big Bang is a theory based on the evidence we have. We don't know much about it.
I was talking about Hubble and Lemaitre's law. If the universe is expanding, it means from.
Sure.
It means it had a starting point.
I agree with you. No, it had a point. You can't use the word starting. It had a point. It came
Why
from.
can't I say it has a starting point?
Because
Because
we don't
it
know that
goes
that's the start.
outward.
We don't know that it started there.
Yes, that's actually where the Big Bang Theory came from.
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
what brought Fred Hoyle to become a theist. This is what brought Einstein to become a theist, or actually
No,
deist.
Einstein was not. Yeah.
He was uh, he was
Einstein-
agnostic
Einstein-
originally and became a deist
No.
because of Hubble and Lemaitre's law. This is history.
Einstein was
It
an
was
atheist.
19.
Einstein
It
was
was
an atheist. He actually wrote in a letter that he's an atheist shortly before he died. We have that. So
I have no idea what you're talking about. He said that his mistake with the cosmological constant was the biggest mistake of his career.
he said he said he doesn't believe in any personal God of any kind.
Yeah, not a personal god, but a
Yeah.
god.
Yeah,
He was
no,
a deist, not a theist.
No, I don't even think he was a deist. I think it was very uncool to say you're an atheist back then. So he said it in ways that would show people what he actually.
There were actually a decent amount of people showing up around that time who were atheists, but he
Yeah.
wanted the universe to be eternal originally. Like, I've read his biography. I know this. I've also listened to a historian, Stephen Meyer, who has a doctorate in history and also a doctorate in philosophy of science. And he has written about Einstein and how he became a deist from agnosticism. And it was Lemaitre, who was a Catholic priest, who worked with Hubble on creating the Hubble-Lemaitre law. And at the time, of course, it was just a theory. Now it's a law. Now it's a scientific law because it has further evidence behind it, and it's been widely accepted. It's been accepted enough to the point where now it's a law.
Okay.
So
But it's just.
So what I'm saying is that when he was presented evidence himself, he even changed this cosmological constant, and that's how Stephen Hawking and Roger Penrose were able to use his field math, is because of what Einstein had originally done in his special theory of relativity and his general theory of relativity, and what he had changed. And so they came to the conclusion that the universe started as an infinite singularity, so an infinite density singularity, which eventually, if you turn back time, then there's, well, nothing. If you turn back time and the cone goes back all the way, nothing. And then
But we don't really know that to be true.
no, there's a really good reason. In
No.
fact, a lot of people wrote books on it, like
It's
Stephen
okay.
Hawking.
People can
He even
write
thought
books on
that
it.
he
But they
thought
don't-
that
Stephen Hawking would have told you that we don't really know what the Big Bang is all about.
I don't know what you're talking about.
We
He
don't.
was-
We don't know anything. We really don't know anything about the Big Bang. We don't.
He didn't have a very good philosophical mind. He was very scientific, but he didn't really have some of the greatest reasoning, because he had proposed that gravity had started everything, which is kind of ridiculous, because if gravity
Well, no,
started,
gravity-
how could it have started everything?
You need the bending of space and time for that.
Yeah, which means that needs to exist. So if none of that exists, then that means that it can't do it. So that's why an uncaused cause, as Aristotle put it, has been proposed many, many, many times.
People can propose Tinkerbell, and it doesn't mean that we should believe in it unless there's something to show it's true.
But there's no evidence for that. There's evidence
no evidence for God.
There's evidence for an immaterial, timeless,
Nope,
spaceless,
nope,
all-powerful being,
no, there
which
is-
would
no, there
fit
isn't.
the description
No.
of God.
There is no such evidence whatsoever. There is none.
If all of that began and
If.
came into existence,
If we're talking if, we don't know.
okay.
We have to know. We can't just go by ifs. I could say the same thing. Say if it was this, it was that, then Tinkerbell, then Peter Pan. I can say
But
anything.
what's wrong with that idea? What's wrong with the actually exist? If there's genuine evidence, what's wrong with that?
If there was actual good evidence that something intelligent created everything, then that's information that I would like to know. But we don't have that.
But we do.
But then why am I an atheist?
Then I'll buy you a different.
Why am I an atheist?
I don't know your heart. I'm sorry.
Okay, I will tell you why I'm an atheist. I'm
Sure.
an atheist because nobody has a good definition of what a deity is. They have no idea what it is. And if you
But
don't,
you shouldn't go by a definition.
Yes, we do. Because in order to
I'm
know,
saying you shouldn't.
everyone should. Because in order for us to believe in something, it must be demonstrated. And you can't demonstrate something that's unknown, right? I can't demonstrate a blah, because what am I going to demonstrate? How am I going to show you a blah exists if there's no definition of it?
There are other ways.
But it has no definition of a. How are you going to know what a blah is if you don't even know what it is? How can you show it exists if you don't know it?
Let me give you an analogy.
No, I don't.
Because you're giving me an analogy. Let me give you an analogy.
Well, because I'm making a point.
Which I understand. I'm fine with analogies.
Okay, if I can't demonstrate the existence of a blah, if I don't know what it is, because what are you demonstrating? If you don't know what it is, how can you demonstrate something that's unknown? It makes no sense at all. Which is why we need to know what a God is. And when I ask you for it is, you give me all the words that don't tell us what it is. So I can't even begin to ask you for a demonstration of this thing if you can't even show me what it is.
But I have. I've given you definitions, and also I have pointed to if the universe began. That's just basic logic. If all natural world came into existence, that means the being cannot be those things, but rather supernatural.
That's a story. That's an if story.
Just like all math, all science.
We're not
that's
using
what it's
math.
all based on. Ifs.
We are not using math here. We're talking about
no, but that's
what
how you
shows
do
to be
math.
true. Right, but we're not doing math.
But
we're not doing math.
ask any serious mathematician, they'll tell you there's no certainties.
Samuel, we're not doing math right now. This is not math.
I'm telling you that actual science is based off of ifs.
So we're not doing math right now. We're not doing math.
Okay, let's do some science, okay? Let's talk about the singularity theorems.
Science
Actually,
means
we probably
to know.
don't have time for that.
Science means to know. It's about our knowledge.
It means knowledge, yes. But
what do we know about this God thing to know that you can demonstrate its existence? Like, how do I know?
But knowledge still requires interpretation. Knowledge that the universe has a beginning. Okay, so what caused it? What caused this beginning?
We don't know it had a beginning.
I'm fairly certain. 99.9999999.
Well, that's you jumping around because, like I said earlier, which you failed to acknowledge and don't want to continue on with, is it could have been in a different form. Could have been a different form.
Sure, it's possible, but I told you that it's still that nature would still be dependent. Just because it's eternal doesn't mean it's not dependent.
You want to think it's dependent on something, but you don't know.
Well, of course I want to, but that doesn't matter. That's actually good reasoning.
Why can't you just be with, I don't know what it is yet. I don't know what's going on. I'm not going to believe until I have sufficient
Because I've experienced God. Because I have other reasons. I also know there's great historical evidence that Jesus rose from the dead. There's also a great reason that there's a mind behind the tuning of the universe. Just like if you say we're to tune a vehicle's engine and it requires a mind to get it to work correctly, right? The universe requires an immensely knowledgeable mind. Just the cosmological constant is 10 to the 90th power.
You're assuming the universe is a creation. And that's why you made that analogy towards
I'm assuming that based off of a reasonable inference, based off of evidence. That's what you do. That's science.
You don't have any evidence to show that the universe was created at all.
Do you know the cosmological constant? What is the cosmological constant?
Tell me what you mean.
No. You tell me. What is the cosmological constant?
Just make your point, man.
I'm just wondering if you know what that is.
You can't say that the universe was created without showing it was created by an intelligence. You can't do that.
But hold on a second. But that's like saying that I can't show you that
you're trying to say
nature
is created
without talking to you.
You're trying to say nature was created by an intelligence.
Yes, because nature is dependent. We see that from the Big Bang. If it's dependent, therefore you need something independent.
Show us that nature was created by an intelligence.
Do you know what the cosmological constant is?
Dude, just make your point. Just explain yourself.
No, it's all right. It's all right. Oh boy. If the universe in fact had If the universe in fact had a beginning, if all physical reality came into existence at that point of ingress, that means that it's dependent. And that means that the laws of nature are also dependent because they all break down in this singularity, which means that they require a cause to begin it all, to push it. In other words, kickstart it. It's like kickstarting an engine.
Assuming that cause is something intelligent.
Because of the fine-tuning argument, such as I was mentioning, do you know what the cosmological constant is? It is the rate at which, it determines the rate at which the universe expands. So it has to do with the relation between the hypothesized push-pull against gravity that keeps planets in their orbits. And so that actually determines the rate or the expansion rate of the universe. So the current constant is 10 to the 90th power, that the strength of the hypothesized push-pull has to be in relation to the gravity. The difference between them has to be up to 10 to the 90th power. So, in other words, 1 in 90 zeros. It has to be that minimal of a difference in order for us to have a proper expansion. Otherwise, we won't have galaxies. We won't even have planets anymore.
Okay,
Black holes won't even.
What's your whole point of that? Of saying that?
The expansion rate has to be directed. Has to be everything has to be kickstarted in a very practically perfect way.
So you're assuming there was an intelligence behind it.
Yes.
Okay.
Based off of what we know from here on Earth, such as, say, an engine that will not run with... Why can't I talk about engines?
Because we're talking
engines require a tuner. If you don't have a tuner,
we're not talking about
it
engines.
won't start.
We're talking about the universe.
Yes. So what I'm saying is...
We don't know the universe was created, so you can't talk about engines. We don't need an analogy there.
What? No, that doesn't make any sense.
How does that not make sense?
That makes zero sense. That... Yeah.
You're always trying to relate something to something we created.
Yes, that's science.
No, that's not science. That's assuming that the universe was created. You're trying to use something that we created to refer to something in the universe itself. You're trying to assume the universe was created.
No. I'm trying to give you an example of something that requires fine-tuning to show you what fine-tuning is.
Yeah, we know engines require fine-tuning.
Yes.
We have no reason to think the universe was fine-tuned at all.
But the numbers, man, even just the cosmological constant, and on top of that, there's also the low state of entropy, which is an even more astronomical number. The chances of low entropy state coming about by accident...
It doesn't matter what the chances are. It doesn't matter how astronomical your things are.
Is there a higher chance that a mind was behind the universe?
It doesn't matter how crazy you think the numbers are. Things are the way they are, and you're trying to say, "Oh, because they're like this, it must."
So where did it come from then?
We don't know, and that's how you should be right now.
But
Samuel.
I believe that it was in fact God.
It doesn't matter.
It was a mind.
It doesn't matter what you believe, Samuel.
It kind of does, because it means that's the way I act.
No, right, and that's bad because you shouldn't act because the things that you do are based on your beliefs, and if you have bad beliefs about how the world works, you're gonna have bad actions.
Yes, but that goes for you too. You could be wrong about not knowing.
Which is what? No,
you could be wrong about skepticism.
No,
but you're essentially assuming that skepticism is the ultimatum. That it's the worldview everyone should hold.
Saying I don't know is the beginning of knowledge. Being able to say I don't know.
According to what?
So I'm going to wait until I do have the information before I do say. It's called being honest. You have to be able to say I don't know.
I'm being honest.
If you're right, I'm sure you probably think you are, but you're not being logical about it.
I'm trying to be as logical as I can, but you're assuming that skepticism is the worldview that everyone should hold. But that's assuming a purpose. That's assuming morality. That's assuming a lot.
I don't understand how it's assuming anything that doesn't need to be.
You're assuming that skepticism is in fact the ultimatum. It is what we should
not knowing before
run
we
towards.
Know. Not knowing before we know is the way to go. Yes.
Are you skeptical of skepticism?
Being able to say I don't know before I know is a very important step to take.
Why?
Because we should be assuming we know something before we know it.
Why?
Because then we believe in things which are we have irrational beliefs, and we have bad ideas of reality. Our actions are bad as well.
Why be rational?
because in order to solve real life problems, we need to have the most realistic understanding of how the world works. That's how
Why
we can,
solve world problems?
yeah, well, now you're going down a crazy.
See?
crazy
But I have a
there's no
standard.
C here. There's no C here.
No. I'm trying to point out that your worldview is inconsistent.
My worldview is very consistent. You have not shown to be otherwise.
You're not being skeptical of your own worldview. Are you
What-
skeptical that you could be wrong?
About
That
what?
your own worldview,
I
that
can always-
skepticism is
I
wrong?
I can always be wrong about anything. If you show me I'm wrong about something, yeah, sure.
Well, at least you're consistent.
Yeah. Well,
But are you skeptical of...
The difference between you and I is if I'm wrong about something, I'll accept it and I'll change my mind. You have never been able to show the universe is created. You can't tell me what a God is. All these things you believe in, you can't show them to be true, but you still believe in them. You'll never see me do that. I'll never go around believing in a blah or invisible pink unicorns flying out of my butt. You'll never
But
see
you
me
believe
do
that truth exists in consciousness, but you
Truth?
can't give me evidence for consciousness.
Okay, does
So-
that mean you can make up anything? Does that mean you can make up a god or you tell me that Tinkerbell is real? Does that mean that gives you the right to do that? That anything goes. Anything goes. Then if someone can't,
If there's
explain something-
evidence for it, then I have good reason to believe. So in other words,
do we have more evidence for consciousness than we do for a god?
we have more evidence that... Actually,
no?
that is a great question.
Do we?
Um,
We know that our consciousness.
technically
by
no,
the-
because consciousness is dependent.
On
So
our brain.
consciousness would
On
be
our
another
brain.
pointer to an
on
ultimatum.
our brain, right? On our brain, right? Whatever we do to our brain affects our consciousness and what we can do. Correct? And how we can smash the brain around. We can do lots of things that mess
Just
us
because
up, right?
physical things interact with metaphysical doesn't mean the
We
metaphysical
don't know what
doesn't
metaphysical
exist.
is. We don't know if
Not
metaphysical
physical.
Yeah. So us changing our brain changes how we function consciously. So we have an idea of where consciousness is in the brain. It's a working brain that causes consciousness. Yes?
No,
No?
because a
Okay.
brain interacts with
Okay.
consciousness, but it's not. But consciousness itself isn't dependent upon a brain
How do you know that?
because
If
you can
have
dream.
you ever
you
taken
can-
the consciousness out of a person? So what? People when you're dreaming, your brain's still working.
There are peer-reviewed research papers on death after life experiences. Peer-reviewed, mind you,
So what?
and there are hundreds of thousands.
Right, because when people have near-death experiences, their brain does incredible things that soothe them and make them feel better.
Right, which has definitely been proven
Nothing
to
to
be true.
do, nothing to do with anything supernatural in any way.
No, I'm not saying that's necessarily supernatural. I think that is a great like physical evidence pointer, a materialistic, which is kind of ridiculous, but a materialistic evidence pointer to the existence of an afterlife or some kind of consciousness after death.
Yeah, no.
But if someone flatlines and they come back, even that should be a pointer to you that consciousness is not dependent upon a brain.
flatline does not
So-
mean death. Flatline is not
Right. It doesn't
Right.
mean death. So that means that just because their brain or their neural signals goes to
their heart stops. Just because
Right,
their heart
their-
stops doesn't mean their brain's not
Yes.
still working. It's still working for a certain amount of time. So near-death
Yes.
experiences are nothing special at all to worry about.
but it shows that consciousness is not dependent
Of course-
on physical things.
Of course, it doesn't do that at all because your consciousness is still working up there. Even though
Right.
it has a certain amount of oxygen or blood left to get to it, it's still working. And it comes back.
No, I mean after people are even considered dead and they come back to life. That's what these research papers are about.
Yeah, but
and
their
that's why
brains
they're
are still alive. But their brains are still alive during all that.
No, not even.
Yes, they are. Because if they come back,
Not what I've
there's-
heard.
Well, if they come back and they're able to talk and move and do things, their brains never die. So the consciousness was still active. Just because your blood stops flowing and stuff like that doesn't mean your brain dies. It needs a little bit more time to die. So
Yes,
when
but I'm
you-
saying considered medically dead.
yes, because your heart stopped for a certain amount of time.
No, I'm saying medically dead in that their brain is...
You have to
Kaput.
deprive it of oxygen and blood for like 10, 15 minutes. And then try to bring someone back, and then they're going to be a vegetable.
Well, Gary Habermas, if anyone's wondering, Gary Habermas is great to look into because he actually had written it in his magnum opus, which he did tons of hours upon hours. It's actually I think all of his years of research he wrote in a set of books called his magnum opus, and he put in some of the peer-reviewed NDEs. So I would look into those because they're,
Yeah, a lot of
they're
those
really
are
good.
a lot of
They're
those
actually a lot of them are very legitimate, and I would
I
only
don't know what that
mention
means.
them
I don't know what that means. Legitimate. They're anecdotal.
real, show the existence of an afterlife.
What? No. Why would they do that at all?
Well, you need to look into them.
Oh,
Just-
okay. I would need to look.
I
into
would prefer that you look into them yourself with your own mind
Oh,
rather than me
okay.
just telling you, because there is a
Because you-
social.
There's nothing you can think of to help with the explanation. Is that correct?
Huh?
There's nothing you can think of to help with the explanation of what I'm asked for.
I think
why you
it's
told me.
better explained if you do it yourself. That's something
Right.
I've always told people.
Right.
I tell people,
Okay.
I encourage people to read
Okay.
the Bible for themselves.
Why do you research at
encourage
all? Why do you research at all and do all this research if you're going to just send someone off
To gain
on-
knowledge.
Okay, so then that knowledge is what I'm asking for. If you're going to tell me that NDEs are somehow reflective of
I haven't
afterlife,
done tons of research on NDEs.
No.
I only know a few.
Okay.
So,
I don't
like,
see it- I don't see how an NDE at all in any way can make an idea of an afterlife at all plausible or believable in any
well,
way.
you could read Gary Habermas's magnum opus.
Pretty sure I will
um,
not be impressed.
I mean, he is very, very well respected by atheists
matter.
and Christian alike. So,
It doesn't really matter who respects him or doesn't respect him. What matters is the data he has and that he can show. I never base my opinions on how respected someone is, how popular they are.
well, that just gives me
Going from-
reason to.
Got to go for the data.
Because if other intelligent people do, then that's me being humble.
That-
If
that
other
might-
intelligent
that might get
people
you-
regard him,
That might
then
get you right. That might get you to look into something.
Right.
But the data is still there, and you can still show people. The data.
sure, yes, but that's all I'm saying. All I'm saying is that if other people regard him, if I'm being humble, then I'll assume that this man should be well regarded in my own case, because I am not near as learned as I want to be. But we're hitting the end point here. And again, I want to thank you so much for coming on. This has been such a pleasure. I'm sorry for the times I interrupted. I hope I wasn't rude at all to you.
All right. It looks like the crowd was getting on me about it as well there. So.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
But thank you guys in the chat for coming on and joining. Appreciate it. I know you might hate this, guys, but I am praying for you. Maybe you don't hate it. Maybe it's from genuine care. So that's ultimately
Well, I don't
what
know
it's
why
from.
you would say that to an atheist on your show.
Because I care. I want to be honest. So I pray for you because I care. I wouldn't pray for you if I didn't care. See?
Yeah, but I don't have. Okay.
I want.
Can't you think of something else that's more meaningful to say? Because I don't believe in your imaginary friends. So to me, that's just me thinking you're talking to yourself, pretending you're speaking to your imaginary friend. I think it's like worthless.
Sure, you think that, but like,
Right. No.
that's
Well, any reasonable person should, right?
not necessarily,
No?
because
So when
I'm
you say
doing
you're
it
praying-
from a sense of care and concern for you. Like, I want
Yeah,
to
but I
see
don't-
you
I
in
don't-
heaven. I don't want to.
share. But I don't share your imaginary friends. I don't share them.
Sure,
So if you wanted to
could
be
call
nice,
them
you could do it.
imaginary.
Well, unless they show not to be imaginary, that's what I do. Right?
Sure, you could straw man them if you want, but that's fine.
Oh, it's straw man. I'm not straw man at all here.
Well, you're never mind. Regardless, we're gonna get started again.
Wasn't one of these guys supposed to ask me a question? or what?
I was supposed to do that, but I just sorry, brother Ryan.
What's with the time constraint?
Hey, I'm sorry. I've been multitasking since the debate, the presidential
Oh,
debate. I've been trying to concentrate on both things.
Oh,
But,
well, I appreciate that.
Is there a reason why we have a time constraint here, or what?
It's just for my own personal. I don't want to say mental health, but like, if I go on at an hour and a half, I really should rest. I work too much, and I'm aware of that. So I need to rest my body physically and mentally and emotionally and spiritually. So,
Well, this has been, I have listened to most of it. It's been a very lively discussion and very thought-provoking discussion.
sweet. I hope so. I hope it's thought provoking for everybody. So, because I think, Mr. Ted, I think you really employ a lot of things that like I haven't really thought before, which is interesting because I've talked to a lot of atheists. So you're kind of
I've seen
unusual.
some of the people you interview, and they're pretty lackluster. They're pretty they may be atheists, but they're atheists because they just happen to be atheists, not because it's from an educational persistence that led them there. Most
Right.
likely.
Well,
So-
and those interviews don't show everyone I've talked to. I also have quite a few at work, or at least used to. They actually have left now, which is very sad, but very, very lovely people. that I
Left
care
now?
about
What does that
dearly.
mean?
Oh, I work at a cheese factory, so people don't stay forever. That's what I
you
mean.
quit? Okay.
Yeah, just quit or got fired.
right.
Um, but I was just was gonna have.
Is
Sorry?
Ryan going to ask me a question before I go, or what?
He can if you want him to, but
I'm sorry. I'm still trying to watch the presidential. Well, I had some questions earlier, but it is getting late, Ted.
Well, you can ask your most relevant one, because that's apparently what he's
Basically,
going to.
if the universe exists, which I think we agree that it does, either it had a creator or it created itself. One of those two options.
I don't think so. I don't think those are the only options.
Yeah, well, they are the only options.
No, they
You
aren't.
don't have to admit it, but they are.
No, they're not. No,
So
they're
the
not.
universe always existed.
I disagree with that. I disagree.
Okay, well, you can disagree.
Well, it did. Okay, let me clarify that. It didn't have to create itself, and it didn't always have existed. Perhaps something about, like I said, quantum mechanics, things came into existence. Maybe
that sounds like faith.
No, not at all.
There it is.
No, because we know things pop in and out of existence on quantum mechanics. So
Okay.
Yeah, that's not a
Okay.
surety. That's
So-
like
anyways,
Sorry.
our understanding of it is very limited. What I'm saying is the universe could have always existed. It could have been in different forms. It could have came about through natural means. We really don't know. So I don't think it's fair to say either it was created or it created itself, because saying it's created itself would mean that, the way it is now, it made itself, and that doesn't make any sense. So you have to say it was created some other way, or it came about some other way.
Try to find
don't-
another
I
way.
think-
and keep
You know
from
what? I
losing
think
truth.
I think the best way to go about that is either it was created, or it was created by intelligence, or it came into be some other way. I think that is more honest than saying it created itself. So that's kind of, I think it's more honest than that, because I think your question itself is trying to already pin someone into a corner, and I think that's dishonest.
Yeah. Are you able to see the chat at all, Samuel? There's
yeah.
somebody named Chris
But I'm
Gray
not
that says,
reading
"Who
a
created
lot of
God?" And once again, you get back to the say that nobody created God because he's self-existing. But that question was answered.
Yeah. Well,
Have you ever?
if an
have you-
infinite being exists, then why would he be created? It's
have
not
you ever
logically possible.
studied
but-
any
and
books
it's
or
all right.
looked at any videos, read any books, on Christian apologetics? Have you ever read anybody like Lee Strobel or Josh McDowell or anybody like that? Have you ever looked at? Have you ever?
When I first moved to Florida in the early 90s, I did read one or two books from, who was it? One or two apologists, yes. I what got me off into the whole topic was that I was interested in a girl up north, and that was the only thing we argued about one time, and that made me realize how divisive religion is. And I came down here and I saw the preachers on campus, and that just motivated me to want to debate and learn more. So yeah, I did look into that.
Okay.
I don't remember the exact books I read though.
Yeah, which is perfectly all right. But if you are interested in another, I would love to buy you Return of the God Hypothesis by Stephen Meyer. Again, Stephen Meyer has a doctorate in philosophy of science and a doctorate in history, and also a master's in
So
philosophy.
you must like to read books then, is that correct?
Actually, the only book that I like reading is my Bible. It's hard for me to read books. I listen to 3-hour lectures on books, but it's hard for me to read.
Why don't you get that book from Dan Barker, Losing Faith in Faith?
I
Since
might.
you like that word faith.
I
It's
might.
on Amazon. It's on Amazon.
Okay. Yeah, I might, but I just
I would
met
like
him.
to meet Dan Barker. He sounds like a neat guy.
I've met him quite a few times. He's a
Cool.
he's a pretty cool guy. He made gospel songs on the piano, and he still plays today, but not the same kind of music.
right.
Yeah, I'm sort of the opposite. I went through a long period of not fully being devoted to following God. I lived a life that was contrary to what God wanted me to live, and since the last, he actually it's all subjective, basically, as far as you own. Like, okay, I can tell you what God did in my life personally, and that's called my testimony.
Yeah.
And everybody has their own. Everyone who is a Christian has their own way of telling, okay, how did God get to me? What has God done in my life? That's more of a personal thing.
Yeah.
I can tell you what God's done in my life. I can tell you that had I not experienced tremendous heartache in 2019, I wouldn't be here right now.
Yeah, but Ryan, what purpose is that going to serve by telling me that story?
Because you can tell other people what God did for you.
But
Let me
I
tell
don't
you
believe
what
it. I don't even know what a God is, so I don't believe in one.
My life is infinitely better than it was when I was living for myself.
But
Now it wasn't for God.
But you think it was because of God did something?
Yes,
It was really you and other people that did it, though.
No, I didn't do it.
Yeah, you.
I'm not here because of me. I'm here because of what he did for me.
Yeah. No,
God, I didn't do it.
You're here because of you and other people.
No,
Yes.
I don't take credit for this.
Well,
How do you know that?
You should, but because we have no idea what a God is, do we?
You don't. Speak
don't
for
either.
yourself.
If I asked you the definition of a God, what would you give me?
An all-powerful creator.
There we go.
Well, let's see. If I give you, I don't like your explanation, therefore I have to deflect.
Well, does that tell me what it's made of or where it lives?
God is spirit. Does
What
God
is a spirit?
see?
What is a spirit?
Okay. If somebody creates something, does he have to be made of?
No. What is a spirit?
What is a spirit? I don't know.
Well, there we go. Then why'd you use that word to define it?
God is spirit because.
Oh my God.
But yet you believe that the universe.
No. No. Talking about your God, not about. I don't know how the universe came here. I'm not going to sit here and say I know something I don't know. But you're saying you know something that we don't know, but you thinking you know. So that's why I ask you what that is. Okay? I'm not the one sitting here saying that unicorns did this or did that. I don't make silly, crazy assertions about the world. You do, and then you tell me it's a spirit. I ask you what a spirit is. You tell me you don't know. That's the problem we have.
God is composed of things that are not earthly, are not material.
How do you know
Why
that?
do you shrug?
How do you know that?
Like, what is he composed of? I can't tell you. He's composed.
Well, then how do you know he's composed of that stuff?
He created the atom.
Because
How
we
do you
can't
know
see
he's
him
composed of
physically.
that? How do you know that he exists so much? How do you know that you can't see him if you don't know anything about him? How do you know he's made of something you can't see if you don't know what it is?
Because if material things began, he would be immaterial, which would be unseeable according to
how do we know
our
a being
material
can
eyes.
be? How do we know a being can be immaterial?
How do you know he can't?
No. You're the one that says he exists and he's immaterial. I want to know how we know a being can be immaterial.
How do you know he can't?
No. You're
Because
the positive the one with a positive assertion always has a burden of proof. If you're going to say this thing is real, you
have to prove skepticism to me first. But I'm asking you a question.
Does the universe exist, Ted?
Logic says burden of proof is always on the one with the positive assertion. You have the positive assertion that God
You have
exists.
the positive assertion that
No, I
skepticism is true, and you can't prove it to me that it's true.
That's not the way this works. That's not the way this works.
It doesn't work the way he does.
We have to probably end it here because I have to get going.
Okay.
If you can't even understand that you have the burden of proof because of your positive assertion.
No, I agree that I do, but I think you do as well. But that's we'll do that
I'm not
next
the
time.
one. I'm not the one saying something is.
But you say
this glass exists. Nobody made it.
Technically, you did say truth exists, so.
Truth, right, I defined it. And I defined
nation exists. Someone
truth,
made it.
Truth is not a being that's breathing and living somewhere.
But it's dependent.
You think your God is some being somewhere that.
It's not breathing physically. Not
right,
breathing.
But you don't even know that because you didn't know what it's made of. So how can you know that?
Well, not. Anyways.
All right.
Well, we could go on for hours, but again, I appreciate you coming, and
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you again. If you can leave if you want. I was just gonna have Ryan close us out in prayer. So.
Oh gosh. All right. Peace.
All right. God bless you, sir.
All right. Dear Lord, thank you for this time together. Thank you for giving Samuel this platform to be able to speak and be able to have a discussion about you, Lord. And thank you we just pray that perhaps a seed was planted in Ted's heart. We pray that he will think about the things that were talked about tonight. We pray that perhaps something will remain with him that he will take with him, and that will make him ponder. Maybe the universe didn't get here by itself. Maybe somebody put it here. We know you did. We know you put it here, Lord. We sure do. You put all of us here, and you've done everything for me personally. I can tell you that I'm here because of you, and I give you all the credit and glory, Lord. And I just pray that you give us all a good night. Thank you once again for Samuel and for all that he does for you. I'm so impressed by everything that he does for you, Lord. And he's an inspiration to me, and continue to encourage him to keep doing what he's doing, Lord. And if there's anybody out there that feels lonely or feels like there's nobody that loves them, nobody that cares about them, show them that you do, Lord. Show them that you care about them, that you love them. And I just pray this all in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.